Hey everyone, just before we get started real quick, who's got an Android device with them today? Okay, good. So about 6-8 weeks ago or so, PHP Southwest, which is the local PHP meetup, asked me if I would do a talk on something JavaScript related. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity for me to play around with the web API. I am more of a PHP developer than a JavaScript developer, so it's just an excuse to kind of get my hands wet a bit. So I started doing it and realized that you could do some quite scary things with it, and the talk quite quickly became more of a security talk than it is about the web API. So then I kind of thought, well, actually the best way of demoing the security stuff is to actually demo it. So anybody with an Android device, and this does work a little bit on iPhones, but I'm going to hack all of your devices tonight, or I'm going to attempt to. It works sometimes. We'll see what happens. You don't have to join in with this if you don't want to. If you do join in, I will not access any of your files. You can't do that yet. And I won't leave anything on your devices afterwards. If at any point you want to opt out, just close the browser and it will stop. But we'll see how it goes, and we'll see if we can demo some stuff on your devices. So if you'd like to join in, and if nobody does, this is going to be a really short talk, please go to this URL or scan the QR code, because you've all got QR scanners now from the talk earlier, right? It should take you to HTTPS, but if it doesn't, just make sure that it is on there. When you get there, it will ask you for a load of prompts and permissions. Please accept all of them, otherwise none of it will work. Please also make sure that you're not on battery saver mode on your phone, because it disables a lot of the API stuff. And unlike most talks, please turn your volume up to the maximum, and we'll see if we can break some stuff. But before we do that, I'm going to kind of introduce myself and talk about some of the things from the web API. So my name's Mike. I run Maiden Academy in Bath. We do software development training, mostly for juniors. As I say, I'm primarily a PHP developer, but I do JavaScript and all sorts of other stuff as well. And yeah, I'm here to talk about the web API, primarily some of the fun things that it does beyond just like AJAX and stuff. So let's get started. Boring one that hopefully everyone's kind of seen before, the Geolocation API. All my code samples do actually work. Some of them are readable and some of them are a little bit small. They're mostly just there so you can see kind of how much code is required to do some of this stuff. So the Geolocation API allows you to pull the latitude and longitude and various other bits of data about the user's device. It requires HTTPS, it requires user permission, so it will pop up a little thing and ask them. And it pretty much works on all devices these days. It's been around for a while, you're all probably using it. Next one, the Share API. This one's a bit newer, doesn't require HTTPS, there's no user permissions for it at all. It literally just hooks into the native sharing capabilities of the user's device. It does require a user interaction, so they have to click on something or scroll or do some kind of event in order to trigger this. But what it allows you to do is effectively share some text and a URL via whatever apps are installed on their user's device. So you can tweet, you can send WhatsApp messages, that kind of stuff. But it is obviously down to the user to pick the medium that they would like to share your messages via. At the moment, this only works on Android and only on Chrome on Android, as a lot of these examples are, but it is coming to some of the other platforms. Next one, the Vibration API. This one allows you to basically make a device vibrate, funnily enough. You can give it a single integer and it will just vibrate for that many milliseconds, or you can give it an array of integers and it will vibrate on and off for that many milliseconds, so on for 200, off for 200, on for 200. And if you put that in a loop, it will just never stop. Don't do that. This is supported by Chrome and Firefox, strangely on desktops. Says that it can do it. Yeah, I don't know, but it does say you can do it and it doesn't error when you run the code. but it also doesn't vibrate. But yeah, on mobile devices is supported by Android Chrome. It's not on iPhones yet. The audio API. So this one's actually broken down into two sections. There's kind of the boring bit and then the slightly more fun bit we'll get onto later. So this allows you to play audio files, synthesize sounds, create effects from audio visualizations, that kind of stuff. It's still got a WebKit implementation, but there is kind of a standard implementation as well. But all you have to do is just specify whether you want the standard one or the WebKit one, and it just works. From that point onwards, you can pretty much control or generate any sounds that you want. You can control like the gain, the oscillation type, the frequency values, set how long the sound should play, all sorts of things. The values don't really make any sense. I mean, I don't do music, so maybe they do make sense to people that do music. But if you look online, you can find basically a list of values that will give you all the different notes. So if you want, C or F or, I don't know, music sounds, you can pull them off the internet and there's just lists of them, and you can just put the numbers in and it will give you those sounds. So if you're building something where you need specific noises, you can do that. And you can basically get it to synthesize any kind of noise or any kind of sound that you want. It's supported by everything except Internet Explorer. Most things aren't. No HTTPS, no user permissions. You can just play stuff. So we'll have a go at that in a minute. The online-offline status one, this one's quite cool. If you do any stuff with service workers or with offline support, then this is just from the front end, not from within the service worker. You've got a new Boolean, and yeah, it is online with a capital L. I don't know why. And it will contain a true or false as to whether the device is currently connected to the internet. There's also an event that fires when the connectivity changes, so you can hook into that and display messages when the user's device becomes connected or becomes disconnected. It's supported across the board. Again, no HTTPS, no user permissions. It just works straight out of the box. This is actually part of the network status API, which I haven't got as part of this presentation because it's kind of a bit newer. This is part of the network status API that actually does fully work, but you can pull a lot more information if you use that API. Things like what level of connectivity that user's device has got, so 3G, 4G, 2G, that kind of information. The speed, the download and upload speed you can pull. There's quite a few different ones, but those, the different parts of that API are not actually fully supported yet. They're supported by basically just Android. So this one is the one that actually you can start using now. Okay, this one's a bit more fun. The speech synthesis API. So this one actually literally lets you turn text into speech on the user's device and make it talk to you. It uses the Google stuff to do it, but actually it does work on the iOS things. It's literally just as simple as putting your text into the speech synthesis utterance object, setting the pitch, the rate, and then telling it to speak, and it will just kind of talk to you. It will also allow you to hook into the available voices on the user's device, so you can pick the voice that it will talk to you in. So, for example, built into Mac, there's like 7 or 8 different default voices, and you can actually pull those voices down and then pick the voice that you want, and get it to speak to you in all sorts of different accents. In theory, this one, so it doesn't require HTTPS, and there's no user permissions for this, but in theory, it does require the user to do some interaction. So they should have to click on something or scroll or do something in order to make this work. That's according to the docs. Actually, that's not true. You can just get it to do it randomly. So we're going to do that as well later. I'm not actually sure why they haven't implemented that. If you read the docs anywhere, it all says, oh yeah, it needs user interaction. And then it doesn't. So. Speech recognition. This one is, yeah, this one was a bit scarier when I got this one working. So this literally allows you to record speech through the user's device, and it will translate it back to text for you. And then you can do whatever you want with it. It does require HTTPS, and it does require some user permission stuff. But the user permission stuff, as with most of the APIs for this one, once you have accepted it, it then remembers that forever, unless you go into your settings and change it. So if you just on page load, like I just made some of you do, accidentally accept things, I can now listen to the stuff through your phone, unless you go and change it. On desktop machines, when you do this, it will show the little like red recording icon in the tab at the top, so you know it's recording. On your mobile devices, if you've got the sound turned up, then it will beep at you when it starts to record, and then it will beep at you when it's finished recording, so you know that it's recording. But if you don't have your sound turned up, there's actually no way of knowing that somebody's listening to you, which is concerning, maybe. At the moment, only supported by Chrome both on Android and on desktop. The only one kind of caveat or thing that makes me feel mildly better about this one is that it does require the browser to be in focus. So unlike some of the other APIs that you could just run from a service worker after the users close the browser, you can't do that with this one. They actually have to have the browser open in front of them. So when you're surfing their web page, they're just listening to you. It's fine. Push notifications. These ones less new. I haven't put the code in for this one because it's long and doesn't fit on my slide. But basically allows you to push stuff from the server to the front end, to the client. You can push stuff even when the app isn't running, so it doesn't have to be loaded into the browser, or even the browser be open. Provided you've got a service worker, it can just listen to the notifications and then wake the application up. Basically this one's pretty cool. It's good for kind of mirroring native notifications that you would get from a native app. Just when you're using this, make sure you're using CSRF tokens. Otherwise, your application will accept push notifications from anyone, which you don't want. Again, requires HTTPS, requires user permissions when you load the app for the first time. Currently only works on Android and Chrome and Firefox. Okay, full screen API. So this one, yeah, again, is kind of only Chrome on mobile, but works on Chrome, Firefox, and Safari on desktop. There's no HTTPS for it, and it doesn't require any user permissions. It will just straight up take the browser into full screen mode, and you can also force it out of full screen mode. It doesn't stop the user from exiting full screen, so it will put them in full screen, but they can take themselves back out of it, or vice versa. It just gives you the control to kind of do that. If you loaded my app just a minute ago, you will have seen it do that. If you're on an Android device, it will have full screened you. Okay, let's have some fun. If this works. Okay, so if you've got the app, if you haven't already, can you click Start, and it'll sync you with my server. And 4 brave souls. Just give it a minute, just in case.
My device is not supported.
No, it's iPhone.
Oh,
no. Yes, pretty much. So some of these are supported on iPhones, but rather than writing a cacophony of if statements to figure out which APIs are supported by which users, I've just done it as you need to have all of these in order to join in, I'm afraid. Okay, cool. So let's just try some of the easier ones. So the sound API, please make sure your volume's turned up. Let's see if we can make this do some stuff.
It did make a noise, but it was quite quiet.
Oh no. just turn all of them on. Let's see if that works.
Yeah, that was me again.
Is it really quiet?
It's quite low. It's quite a low frequency. So
It is.
not very
Yeah, I did adjust it slightly.
for the women. It definitely makes a sound.
Okay. Okay, I clearly need to make it a higher frequency. Let's try the vibration one. Let's see if we can make these.
It vibrated, it's still vibrating.
Yeah, so those are the kind of the simple ones, making noises and vibrations. And yeah, the geolocation one. This one's fairly simple. So apparently that's just everybody in the room or everybody that's connected. Your locations. Let's see if we can do some of this stuff.
Hello. Hello. This is the best I've ever seen.
Thanks, guys. Okay, how about this one? Oh. Do you want to have a go as well?
This is the best talk I have ever seen.
Oh. Okay, let's try this one. Somebody want to? Who's 246? Let's go with that. Yeah. Okay. So in a minute, when that goes blue, I'm gonna. You need to talk to your device. Just say a couple of words, something simple, and with any luck, it will grab your voice and put it up on the screen for us. It will beep when it's actually recording, or it should beep when it's recording.
This is the worst talk I've ever seen.
So along with, yeah, it's just going to keep going now forever. So along with being able to translate whatever you say or being able to detect what you say and turn it into text, obviously Google have now stolen all of that information as well because it does it via their servers. But it also gives you a confidence, gives you a percentage as to how sure they think they are with what you said. So depending on what you say, you can get it to do some funny things. Does anyone else want to have a go? Somebody shout out the number if you want to have a go. No? It's okay. Okay, so those are the kind of the ones that I know actually work. These are a little bit harder to do, but in theory, and last time this didn't go so well, but we'll see. In theory, this is going to do a Mexican wave through the room of noises from your devices, based on it's combining the sound and the geolocation API. Still, it's too low a frequency to be able to hear in the group, isn't it? Clearly got the frequency number wrong. See, not a musician. Okay, let's keep going. Actually, no, I'll do that in a minute. So let's keep going. Okay. There is another API that I want to talk about, the Bluetooth API. So this allows you to connect to any Bluetooth device which supports the new protocol. Basically, provided your Bluetooth is turned on, it will allow you to, from your browser, connect to that device and then actually control that device, so you can send it to commands and make it do things. It does require HTTPS, it does require user permission, so there is a pop-up on it, and it does require the browser to be in focus, so you can't do it from behind the scenes, or I'm not going to say anything nefarious because that's not true, but currently only works on Chrome and Android. In theory, what's supposed to happen, and I will show you in a minute, is that when you try and connect, it will pop up a list of devices that you can connect to that support the right frequencies and support the protocol, and then you can kind of pick the one that you want to and click OK. So even if you haven't had the permissions, it's okay. Even if you haven't given it permissions, it will still pop up and ask you which device you want to connect to. I did find, I really wanted to do this demo, but I don't think it would have gone down very well. I did find a way of actually just making it connect to any device that you have previously paired with. When you try and pair to a device, if you do this bit of code, it will just say, yeah, connect to any kind of device, and it will give you a list and let you pick the device, and I'll give you a demo of that in a minute. But if you want to connect to a specific device, you have to give it the UUID of that device. There is a separate part of the Bluetooth API that allows you to pull all the UUIDs that are available for you to connect to. So if you pull all the UUIDs and then loop over them one at a time and just attempt to connect, at some point one of them will say yes, and it will just let you in without any user permissions. And then you can take control of that device, which I found out in my lounge when I turned off my speakers on my TV by accident. I haven't got a demo doing that. I thought that was probably beyond what I'd get away with doing. But just to prove that the Bluetooth API does work, and this is not going to go well if nobody's got their Bluetooth turned on. But that's just running the bit of code for my slide. So this is just immediately detecting all the Bluetooth devices in the area. And you can see it tells me whether it's a supported device with the BLE protocol. Which clearly at the moment none of these are. Oh, there's one. So I could connect to that, and then I would be able to control that device via the protocols.
Yeah.
Is that you? Don't worry, I won't do it. But yes, so I could just connect to that. So yeah, it is quite easy, but all that's doing is it's just literally just running this bit of code, which is just requesting all devices and just saying, yeah, accept anything, and it will just try and connect. That was my demo. Okay, there are some other APIs available, so that's just kind of the fun ones I wanted to play with, but there are some other ones. So the Web USB API it's kind of still under development, but it is available for you to start using, probably not in production yet. But, allows you to read and write data to and from USB devices connected to that device. Yeah. I don't know if that's a good idea, but you can do it. Cool. Local storage and IndexedDB, so that's, I'm talking to a JavaScript community here. I hope everybody probably knows what these things are. So local storage is like session data, and IndexedDB is a database in your browser. Payment gateway, currently only in Android, but allows you to use Google Pay from JavaScript, basically, so you can pay for stuff. It will connect to Google Pay and then can grab credit card details and stuff through the front end. Obviously requires like fingerprint access and PIN codes and stuff, so there's user auth. Device orientation is just a bunch of properties that will tell you which way the device is, landscape or portrait. The clipboard API is still under development. It's actually only available in Fire OS, which clearly everybody uses, but allows you to read and write stuff from the clipboard. There was a scary bit when they first put it in where you could read stuff that you hadn't written from the clipboard. And then loads of people had their password stolen. But they have fixed that, so now you can only read stuff that you put in there. And now that they fixed that, it is coming to other platforms. The animation API is just designed to make animations easier in JavaScript, so you don't have to keep using animation libraries. It's rubbish. It's just not better than using a library. I had to play with it. It was so complicated that I was like, I just want my library back. Yeah, but it does exist. The battery status API, this one's quite a cool one. So it was around for quite a while, actually, and nobody really used it because nobody really knew what it was there for. The theory behind it was that if you were using a lot of front-end data, if you're using particularly things like IndexedDB or something like that, you could hook into the battery status, and then when it got down to a certain percentage, you could then decide, okay, actually I'm going to save all this data properly to my back end before the device crashes. That was kind of the concept, which seems nice. But actually, advertisers started doing nefarious things with it. So what happened was they figured out that they could embed some JavaScript in an advert that would pick up your current battery level on a specific page and store it somewhere. And then when you visited another page that they were serving the ad for, they could pick up your battery status level on that page as well. And then based on the amount of time that your device is going to take to decharge, because you can find that out from it as well, they could calculate how long it took you to get from page A to page B and likelihood of where you went in between, and basically track you like everywhere. People didn't like that so much. So they got rid of it, actually because nobody was using it for what it was designed for anyway. So yeah, it doesn't actually exist. If you go here to MDN, the web API stuff, there is a huge list of all the different APIs, which is quite cool. That's basically where I got my whole talk from. It's definitely worth a read. There are some new APIs being considered or drafted, being talked about at the moment. The wake lock API to prevent a device from going to sleep. Anybody joining in with the demo will have probably noticed that your phone hasn't yet gone to sleep. I haven't actually used the wake lock API because it's not out yet. There is a way of doing this without that API. If you play a MP4 video, or any video actually on your device, the device goes, oh, you're watching a video, so I'm not going to go to sleep. So if you make that video 1 pixel in size and transparent and play it in the background, the device then goes, you're watching a video, I won't go to sleep. And actually you're not watching a video. So that's how I did it to you guys, but there is, because that's like a common solution, they're making an API for it. The media capture one, there is a reasonable amount of documentation about this at the moment on MDN, and it does exist in FireOS again. But basically it allows you to tap into the camera of the user's device and to take screenshots, basically any kind of media. There's also talk of it being able to tap into the files on the user's device. All of those things sound really scary to me, so I don't know what, with any luck it'll be HTTPS user permissions and all of that kind of stuff, but it's still under consideration. And then the last one, which sounds pretty cool, which actually will probably be helpful in comparison with native applications, is the contact access. So that will give us access to the user's contacts saved on their device, with any luck, behind user permission access, so that people can't just read all of our phone numbers. Yeah. Last thing to remember on this is, although all of this kind of stuff that we've talked about might sound a little bit scary, actually native apps can already do all of this stuff, and a lot of this stuff does not require user permission at time of use, just at time of install on native applications. So arguably ours is slightly more secure if you're on web, but it still seems a bit scary to me. I have got one more, so I've got a demo of the share. So if you're still on the device, it will have just changed screens, or hopefully it'll be about to change screens, and it will pop up with a share button. If you hit the share button, it will share my talk on Twitter, obviously. Yeah. And that's it. Thank you very much.